In the far reaches of Eastern Europe, there's a mysterious land frozen in time, where steep gorges cut through ancient mountains, and the forests teem with wild creatures. A place where humans live by tradition and share the land with giants. For the animals hard at work raising their families, summer is a time to feast on the fruits of the forest before the arrival of the bitter winter ahead. It's May in the Carpathian Mountains, Romania. Deep in the forest, a giant is roaming the rocky slopes. A female brown bear, and she's not alone. Her two young cubs stick close to her side. Just 4 months old, they're totally dependent on their mother. The cubs will suckle from her until they're at least 1.5 years old. To provide enough milk, she needs to eat an incredible 20,000 calories a day. As an omnivore, plants account for up to 85% of her diet. She gets her protein from carrion and insects. She'll even hunt if she needs to. For now, there are plenty of beetle grubs to be found in the trunk of a dead tree. The cubs will stay with their mother until they're over 18 months old, learning the ways of the forest. For this bear family, the race is on to fatten up. When winter arrives, their metabolism will slow down, and they'll spend most of their time in a deep slumber. So the more they can eat now, the better their chances of survival. The Carpathian Mountains cut through 7 countries in Europe, stretching east to west across 930 miles of rugged terrain. They're home to some of Europe's last remaining pristine forests. A wild refuge on a crowded continent. One species here is at the heart of the forest life cycle. A beech tree, over 200 years old, soaring 130 feet into the canopy. The hard wood of its trunk is the perfect spot for a black woodpecker to bore out a nest and raise her young. High enough to stay out of harm's way from opportunist hunters. She feeds them with wood beetle larvae caught in the surrounding canopy. On the tips of the tree's branches, hundreds of beech nuts are ripening. They're packed with calories, and in the autumn will be a highly prized food for many animals in the forest, including the sounders of wild boar that raise their families on the forest floor below. But the bounty produced by the beech trees varies dramatically each year, depending on how warm the weather is. When the nuts ripen in autumn, it'll be a time of feast or famine, impacting the lives of the animals that live here. Beech trees used to exist only at high altitude in a few isolated regions. But since the end of the last ice age, 11,000 years ago, they've extended their range through the Carpathians and across Europe. These ancient forests provide the perfect cover for an ambush hunter. The Eurasian lynx. It's so secretive, it's rarely seen. The purpose of her distinctive ear tufts is not yet understood, but they're the hallmark of this solitary species. This female does her best to avoid encounters with her own kind. She leaves a clear message that this territory is taken, scratching a tree trunk as a calling card. She moves stealthily to track down her prey. Her webbed paws spread out, reducing noise as she pads through the leaf litter. Her incredible vision means she can spot a mouse from 250 feet away. Like all cats, she has a mirrored layer of tissue in the back of her eyes. It reflects light through her retina, activating the receptors for a second time. It helps her hunt in the shadows and low light. She's powerful enough to take down an animal up to 4 times her size. Deer, birds, and rabbits are all on her menu, if she can catch them. She's a pouncer, not a sprinter. Failing to take her quarry by surprise, she'll have to try elsewhere. But right now, she's got other important business. She's heading back to her den to check up on some special new arrivals. A pair of 3-week-old kittens. These two are a valuable addition to the lynx population, more precious than she'll ever know. There are only around 2,000 lynx left in Romania. They're illegally hunted for their thick winter pelts. Born blind and helpless, these kittens' eyes are now open. She nurses them every few hours with protein-rich milk. As she tends to the pair, she purrs, a kind of contact call to signal all is well in the world. The kittens completely depend on their mother and will stay close to her side until they're 10 months old. Without her, they won't survive their first winter. For one animal roaming these mountains, an encounter with a lynx could be a matter of life or death. The chamois is a close relative of sheep, goats, and ibex. They are perfectly adapted for life on these precipitous slopes. And in the summer months, they head as high as they can, living above 6,500 feet. Padded elastic hooves give them extra grip on uneven and slippery ground, making them incredibly sure-footed. Their long hind legs act as powerful springs to help them climb. They can even leap 6 feet into the air from a standstill. Lynx and wolves could attack if they let their guard down. So they must be able to scramble to safety. Out on the exposed slopes, there are few places to hide, so they never stray far from the safety of the steepest cliffs. But it's humans that pose the greatest threat to their existence. For centuries, people have killed chamois for leather and meat. Although European laws strictly enforce a hunting quota, today poaching continues to place this species under pressure. It's June, and in the valleys the summer heat is building. For the Romanian communities that live in the Carpathians, life here has changed little over the centuries. Dry weather means the hay harvest is now in full swing. The traditionally managed meadows are still farmed by hand, a way of life that has protected an astonishing array of insects. More than 35,000 species of invertebrates have been documented here, providing a rich food source for birds and small mammals, which keeps the entire food chain healthy. With the wildflowers in full bloom, the honeybees are hard at work in the meadows. Every day, worker bees set out in search of nectar. Each bee can visit up to 100 flowers on a single trip. They use their long proboscis to suck up the nectar and ferry it back to the nest in a special organ called the honey stomach. By collecting pollen on their bodies, they transfer it between the flowers, which helps plants reproduce. For this local artisan, the bees are helping to keep another tradition alive. He's a beekeeper, selling his honey direct from a mobile van that's also home to his domestic bees. In Romania, the art of keeping bees is steeped in history. The earliest reference to the abundance of bees in this area can be traced back to 440 BC and the writings of Herodotus. In the late 18th century, the first guide to local beekeeping was published. Today, these beehives can be set up anywhere. He travels to the surrounding meadows and forests, which provide his colony with all the nectar they need. Inside the hives, the dedicated worker bees are busy passing the nectar to the mouths of other house bees. As they chew, an enzyme mixes with the nectar until it turns into honey, which they store in hexagonal cells. Romania is home to over 1 million colonies of domestic bees and produces around 35,000 tons of honey a year. The beekeeper sells most of what he produces, but leaves enough behind to keep the hungry hives fed. For another forest resident, the promise of honey can prove far too tempting. Bears have been known to raid beehives if they spot the opportunity. So this beekeeper has come up with a plan that allows him to kick back and relax while he waits for his customers. Cans strung around his mobile honey factory are his own bear early warning system. Wild and domestic honeybees play a vital role in keeping the meadows and forests healthy. In the rivers, another industrious resident is setting out for a hard day at work. A Eurasian beaver. Along with her mate, she's busy carrying out essential repairs to their family lodge, built on a riverbank. They use their front feet to collect mud and their jaws to carry timber. But perhaps their most important tools are their unique teeth, which continue to grow throughout their lives. A rust-colored coating of iron on the front of their incisors makes them extremely tough, while the inner surface on the back of the teeth is made from softer dentine, which wears down more quickly. So the teeth sharpen into a wedge-shaped blade, longer in the front, shorter at the back. Their powerful lower jaw muscles help them to gnaw through hard wood. For centuries, beavers were ruthlessly exploited for their pelts. Their nickname was brown gold. By the 1900s, populations in Europe and Asia had all been wiped out, with only around 1,200 remaining. But today they've made a remarkable comeback thanks to significant conservation efforts. With their paddle-like tails, webbed feet and waterproof fur, they're well equipped to thrive in this watery world. Beavers pair for life, and these two are raising the next generation in the safety of their lodge. The only way to access their front door is through an underwater tunnel. Inside, it's warm and dry. The perfect secret hideaway from the outside world. The fortified walls of their lodge protect them from wolves and bears. The parents share the responsibility of looking after their young. They have their work cut out keeping their home waterproof and their babies well fed. Beavers are the architects of this ecosystem and play an ancient role in keeping the landscape healthy. Their dams filter out silt and sediment downstream and create small wetlands which help to prevent drought and flood. And all the extra pruning stimulates trees and bushes to grow back stronger the following year. The ponds that form behind a beaver dam are home to a thriving array of aquatic residents. This is the perfect hunting ground for a fire-bellied toad. At only around 2 inches long, she may be small, but she can pack a potentially lethal punch. Unlike most amphibians, she's active during the day, and that could make her an easy target for a heron. But this toad has a secret weapon to help protect her. She's able to secrete a toxin from the hundreds of tiny pores on her body. And the bright yellow warning on her belly lets would-be predators know it's best not to bite. Summer means toad courtship season is in full swing. And in a pond close by, this male toad is on the lookout for love. To attract a mate to join him in the water, he puffs up with air like a balloon and floats. With his body flattened, he pushes air back and forth between his lungs and a special vocal sac, producing his signature mating call. It's hard work. He serenades around the clock, determined to call in a mate. There are as many as 10 males for every female, so he needs to pull out all the stops to stand out from the crowd. But back on land, the female isn't impressed with his wooing efforts. Something else has caught her eye. Her next meal. For many species in the Carpathians, summer is the time when love comes calling. But the mating season isn't always quite so romantic. Instead, it can spell danger. On the forest edge, a mother bear is out foraging with her cubs. It's July, and over the summer their milk intake has increased fourfold. It's now at its peak. On top of that, they're adding solid food. This rotten tree trunk is the perfect spot to dig out an easy snack. Ants. Mom's strong enough to kill a deer, but instead she uses her strength to turn over heavy rocks and logs. The cubs watch their mother closely. They have their first set of chewing teeth and are busy learning the tricks of the trade. Practice makes perfect. With dusk approaching, a noise suddenly catches her attention. She scans the forest with her excellent eyesight and spots a marauder. A male bear in his prime has picked up her scent. He weighs in at almost twice her size, and he could be big trouble for her youngsters. If a male bear finds a mother with young cubs, he may try to kill them, as this will trigger the female to come back into estrus, ready to mate. Only 50% of cubs make it to their first birthday, in part because of encounters like this. Bear mothers are fiercely protective when facing a male. She stands her ground. It works. He decides the risk of a confrontation isn't worth it. Tonight, the cubs are safe. For lynx, the biggest threat doesn't come from their own kind. It comes from packs of wolves. So this mother has to keep a low profile as she raises her young. Her kittens are nearly 2 months old. They have tripled in weight and are now strong enough to accompany their mother on short trips away from their den. It's a chance to learn some important life lessons. Their mother is handing over the spoils of her hunt. A wood pigeon. It won't provide many calories, but as the kittens play with the carcass and work out how to eat it, it helps them hone their predatory skills. The kittens learn through observation, and as they grow, will begin to follow their mother on hunting expeditions. The ultimate goal will be to bring down a prize food: deer. In the forest, a roe deer browses the leaves of a young sapling. It's a male, standing at just over 2 feet tall. He's solitary and commands his own territory. He will defend it from other males if they get too close. These small deer roam from Spain to Iran and as far north as Scandinavia. They're abundant in the Carpathians. They browse from saplings and branches, but this means they can cause tree damage. Lynx play an important part in controlling their numbers, which in turn helps to limit the impact of the deer on the forest. On the edge of a clearing, a female has recently given birth. Her vulnerable fawn is hidden in the grass close by while she eats. A spotted coat helps keep her baby camouflaged from predators. She'll nurse her fawn until it's around 4 months old, and then he'll have to fend for himself. By August, the crops are ripening in the fields. And a tiny resident is making the most of it. This Eurasian harvest mouse weighs only 1/5 of an ounce, about as light as a marshmallow. She's a master acrobat and uses her prehensile tail as a 5th limb, a safety line to help her balance as she moves between the tall stems, searching for seeds and insects. But she can never let her guard down. These fields are a hunting ground for barn owls. If she hears one, her only line of defense is to freeze. Her broad feet are adapted specifically for climbing. A large opposable toe on the outside of her hind paws allows her to grip onto stems, while she uses her front feet to eat. And now her energy needs are higher than ever. She has 3 hungry newborn mouths waiting to suckle. Her carefully woven nest is suspended high in the grass. Her babies have no fur and are highly susceptible to the cold, relying on the shelter of their home for safety and warmth. They'll stay here for another 2 weeks before facing the dangerous world outside. As the days start to grow shorter, the bears spend longer foraging, around 16 hours a day. The mother is searching for a special treat. She's heard the buzzing of bees, and where there are bees, there's honey. But it's not just the honey they're after. She'll also eat the bees and the larvae inside the nest, which provide valuable protein. Over the coming months, food for the bears will become increasingly scarce. So they make the most of this meal. Their thick fur and rough tongues protect them from the worst of the stings. And the reward is worth a little pain. In the Carpathians, winter temperatures can plummet to -4 degrees Fahrenheit. When the bears begin their winter slumber, they won't hunt or eat for months. And they could die from starvation if they don't store enough body fat beforehand. In the last days of summer, the drive to find extra food is so strong, the bears will start to take bigger risks. And it can bring them into conflict with local villagers. And for the shepherds that graze their flocks on the surrounding slopes, bear encounters are part of everyday life. If they spot an opportunity, a bear will snatch a sheep. The shepherds rely on their huge guard dogs to protect their animals, and occasionally their own lives. It's not unheard of for bears to attack a shepherd trying to defend his flock. The lynx kittens are now 4 months old and busy exploring their surroundings and testing sibling rivalries. But this is more than just fun and games. Playtime is a chance to practice their pouncing and stalking, and perfect their climbing. Trees are a useful vantage point from which to spot prey, even if going up proves a lot easier than coming back down. Today, their mother's exceptional hunting skills have hit the jackpot. This roe deer will provide the family with meat for days, if the kittens can work out how to tackle the tough carcass. Their claws help them to grip, but their adult teeth have only just started to emerge. They don't yet have the canines they need to rip the skin open, or their carnassial teeth to shear off large chunks of meat. But they do their best at tucking in. For now, they'll continue to supplement their diet with their mother's milk. But by the end of the winter, these two kittens will need to be proficient hunters if they're to survive on their own. Change is in the air. It's autumn. With the arrival of shorter days and colder weather, the forests are ablaze with colour. It's time for the beech trees to unleash their precious bounty. When the nuts are ripe, they drop to the ground. And this year, the trees have simultaneously produced a bumper crop. Called a mast year, the result is an incredible 100,000 times more nuts than a typical year. A mast season only happens every 5 to 8 years after a very warm summer. the residents of the forest reap the benefits. Wild boar and bears gobble up the crop. Beech nuts pack a nutritional punch, double the amount of calories and protein compared to acorns, another staple. Everyone shares in the abundance, but in the poorer intervening years they'll be forced to compete for less energy-rich foods. Deep underground, new life is stirring. Fungi are erupting from the damp forest floor. While the main show appears to be above the ground, the really hard work is happening below. Vast networks of fungal threads, called the mycelium, are carrying out an essential service under the forest floor. The fungi release enzymes to break down decomposing leaves, seeds, and rotten wood, releasing the nutrients such as nitrogen and phosphorus into the soil. This helps transfer these nutrients back to the tree roots. It's a mutually beneficial arrangement. In return, the fungi receive sugars from the dead plant matter they digest, as they can't make their own. When the cold weather arrives, one animal does have the option of moving indoors. A barn owl is searching for new hunting grounds. Like most owls, he can't store very much body fat. Even with his thick feathers, he's poorly insulated and prone to becoming waterlogged. It means during severe weather, he's vulnerable to starvation. So hunting indoors protects him from the elements. And farm buildings never fail to attract rats and mice. His super senses make him a master hunter, indoors or out. Highly sensitive hearing means he can even find prey in the dark. One of his ears is set higher than the other. The left captures sounds from below, while the right focuses on sounds from above, helping him home in on the faintest noise. He has a target in his sights. A house mouse. He can see well in a gloomy barn, with eyes twice as sensitive to light as human eyes. But he can't move his eyes left or right. So instead, he bobs his head to help him judge the distance and position of prey. It's called triangulation and makes him highly sensitive to the tiniest of movements. This mouse must freeze if he's to stand a chance. But he's yet to notice anything out of the ordinary. Barn owls need to eat 3 or 4 mice a day, and he's picked the right place to do it. The lynx kittens are now nearly 6 months old and have passed a milestone. Under the nurturing eye of their mother, they've mastered the skills they'll need to survive the cold weather ahead. Although they're not yet ready to tackle a deer alone, they're catching rabbits and rodents by themselves and are close to fully weaned. In just 4 months' time, they'll be independent. And at the end of winter, will leave the safety of their mother's side to head into the big, wide world. Unlike the lynx, the bear cubs, now 6 months old, will continue to suckle from their mother over the next year. As their diet expands, she'll provide them with less and less milk. But the continued nursing will reinforce their strong family bond. Staying close to their mother is their best chance of protection until they're big enough to survive on their own. When she's ready to mate again, she'll simply walk away and leave them to fend for themselves. For now, thanks to her devotion and care, the cubs have built up enough fat reserves to survive the freezing temperatures ahead. The wilderness of the Carpathians is a haven on a crowded continent. A land where humans are in touch with nature and her seasons. Where some of Europe's rarest creatures can roam free. Safe in the shadow of these rugged peaks.